Fox News completely flipped their position on federal crackdowns. The Daily Show put together what I think is an amazing compilation. You're going to see a bunch of different Fox hosts. What they said in 2014 when a Democratic president used federal authority to crack down on a particular movement versus 2020 when a Republican president is using federal authority to crack down on a particular movement. Watch this.
The president is expanding the effort to protect federal property in Portland, reportedly now sending 100 more agents. Operation Legend is a beginning. It's greatly needed in all of these cities. I am having a hard time understanding why the government would create a confrontation like this. The government has gone way overboard here, and I think they need to pull back fast.
The city of Portland has been under siege. Federal DHS and DOJ officers and agents have been deployed to keep the mobs in check. As we watch that estimated 200 federal agents and local law enforcement surround the ranch, the word of this evening is tyranny, as in the arbitrary, unrestrained exercise of power.
When somebody looks at lawlessness and says it's a local problem, you can do that to dismiss all bad behaviors. Even though there's some lawlessness involved here, the inclination is to be for the individual, even if the individual may have broken some laws.
Federal authorities entering cities across the country right now in an effort to preserve some degree of sanity. I think the sentiment is we are the federal government. We're entitled to do whatever we want. The government feels entitled to massive overreach over states' rights.
When the DHS deployed federal law enforcement officials to protect the city's federal buildings, they were accused of, quote, acting like an occupying army. The federal government needs to pull back. They need to think about what is the end game here. Are they willing to tase people, fight people? I saw one picture of a bloodied up woman, an elderly woman that was thrown to the ground.
For more than a month, mobs of violent, crazy people have roamed this country, terrorizing citizens. It's the armed agents who are scarier. And so how could you look at this and say, Cliven Bundy's the one who threatens America?
200 agents, snipers surrounding a ranch. Seems a little over the top to me.
It's over the top. It's very strong.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest variable that changed is who was in the White House. You know, when it was a Democratic president, then any kind of federal crackdown is viewed as tyrannical, oppressive, wrong by definition. When it's Trump in the White House and Republicans, it's it's viewed as a necessary step to preserve law and order. So this is what Fox News is. Now, listen, this is not apologetics for the other networks. I think CNN sucks, and I think MSNBC sucks. MSNBC does propaganda for the corporate Democrats. CNN just does propaganda for the entire establishment, elements of the right and the left. But Fox News is the propaganda arm of the Republican Party, and that's beyond obvious. You know, it reminds me of the story that we've talked about a bunch on this show, which is the dichotomy of Sean Hannity discussing the NSA spying under Bush versus Obama. That's amazing. When Bush was doing the NSA spying, he said this is to protect the country from terrorism, and it's something we absolutely have to do. When Obama continued that same program, it was, oh my God, this is a giant infringement on your civil liberties and your rights, your protection from unreasonable search and seizure, your right to privacy, and it's government overreach and it has to stop. Now, listen, I agree with the argument he made under Obama, but I think that also applied to the days of George W. Bush too, but he was fine with it when it was George W. Bush. He was only against it when it was Obama doing it. So this is who he is. This is what he does. He's fundamentally the opposite of somebody who would look at politics on an issue-by-issue basis. All he's doing is looking to push the narrative, push the argument for his team. That's who Sean Hannity is. He's partisan to his core. Totally reactionary, totally thoughtless, kind of embarrassing. A rank propagandist who won't be remembered when he's gone in any positive way at all. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Not a serious political thinker. A joke. He's a joke. That's what he is. He's a joke. So, listen, I implore everybody out there, forget partisan considerations. Think about these things on an issue-by-issue basis. And then, you'll actually have a political identity and not one tied into what a team thinks or what, your friends think. You want to actually believe things that are real and that matter and that are based on principle and evidence. And so it's so pathetic. And that was actually a great job. I'm not a fan of The Daily Show these days, but that was a great job that they, basically dug up all that footage of all the different hosts. It's kind of amazing how across the board it is. How the narrative is just there no matter what.